Hello everybody, this is Mussolini or Panzer Penguin, depending on where you know me from. This is my Hearts of Iron 4 game, playing as Japan for the first time. It's taken me a bit of time to get to this point. The recordings and everything kind of got a little screwy, so I'm coming to you from May of 1939, not exactly January the 1st of 1936. Few things to go over real quick. Basically, my objectives in this game are to avoid war with the United States for as long as possible, and to create a Japanese empire that survives and thrives through the 1936 to 1948 period that this game covers. As you can see by the screen we're looking at right now, the political map mode, or the standard map mode, however you want to term it, very visually pleasing. The color schemes are quite nice. As you zoom in, the color fades out to the terrain except for around the borders, so you're always aware of what the borders are. I've turned on the country unit colors, so all the Russian troops will have the dark maroon red, etc. I've got a few different things to show you all. So, at the start of the game, we had the Japanese-Chinese border incident, in which the Chinese decided to give me Beijing and two other provinces here. So these three provinces. I'm not aware of that happening in prior versions of the game, so that was kind of a welcome surprise. Following that, the Chinese allowed me to puppet them, which turned them into the reorganized nationalist China country. And then I attack Wangxi Click and Communist China, the former down here being quite easy to attack and providing me, as you can see, with a lot of resources, while the Communist Chinese battle was more of a let's prevent them from joining the Comintern later down the line. After that, I took part in the Spanish Civil War. The 4 units I was able to send there aided greatly the nationalist Spanish troops in their victory over the Republican Spain. The Russians had also sent troops there for the Republicans and had been winning the war until my Japanese troops arrived, at which point I was able to help them win. If we look at Europe, we can see the Anschluss happened, as did the Sudetenland. I don't know how to pronounce that, but Czechoslovakia has done their historical ceding of territory to the German Reich. I don't believe anything else has particularly happened. The world tension is quite high right now. As we can see here, the Spanish Civil War was the leading contributor, but also my war is roughly 20% world tension because of the wars I've had. Right now I'm not planning on doing anything else, or at least in the immediate future, to raise that tension. As the tension rises, it allows the democratic nations to do more gearing up for war style things. I think I have made a mistake in my choice of national focuses. I decided to go down the found our faction line, unaware that it would prevent me from doing the rest of this tree down here, which basically is geared towards an Axis player, where you can demand French Indochina, pressure Siam, and all that. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do about that. I did form a faction which is now called the... I can't pronounce that, but I'm the faction leader of that faction. I didn't get the choice to change the name, but that's what it is. As you can see, I have the fearless Panzer Penguin as the leader of Japan. One of the nice things about this particular game is that the developers made it extremely easy to mod. So it was relatively simple to throw together a portrait and change the name. I also run the more NATO counters mod and the historical German flag mod. Because this game is released in Germany, and Germany is apparently quite a large market for them. The laws in Germany prevent swastikas and images of Hitler from appearing, so those are all kind of either changed or blocked out, and typically the first mod to be made when a Hearts of Iron game is released is one that, adds Hitler to the game, as we can see here, along with the swastika on the flag. Doesn't really matter all that much to me, but I like to add a little historical flavor where I can, given how unhistorical this game can be from what I've played so far. Quick rundown, I've got a whole bunch of technologies going. I've unlocked some more technology slots, starting to improve my navy a little with some doctrines, also working on some radar. I've got a whole bunch of research modifiers here, which we see from our diplomatic screen as I've added various advisors to various roles. I haven't touched any of my conscription laws yet. I mean, I do have 2.5 million men in reserve, so I'm either not building as much as I should be, or I'm just the avoiding war with China has greatly helped in that department. The trade is just goofy like always. I've got a lot more factories now. I've got 47 civilian factories, 15 on consumers, 7 on trade, and the rest are producing things. I've recently researched radar, so I'm putting some in Manchuria and in Japan, just to give me greater control over this area. I have also built an airfield in Manchuria where there did not used to be one. I'm building it to the max level, or I have built it to the max level, which is why I can have 2,000 aircraft there. I figure that if I go to war with Russia at some point, that should help me there. They've got a lot more troops on the border than I do. But once I kind of figure out what's happening and what my next offensive moves will be, since I'm not part of the Axis, I'll make some decisions there. I've got a lot more military factories now. I got 50 of them. Starting to produce some tanks, as I have some tank units, and some upgraded equipment is on its way as well. The recruitment screen, you can see I'm building some Marines. I've got about 7 Marines now. I've got an army down here of Marines, along with some recently built ones right here. I've also just produced some improved infantry. As we look at this tab, I've added some artillery to my infantry, which was not there before, which should make them a much more effective fighting force. I've also changed this unit, which only had 1 tank, into a completely tank unit with recon and support artillery. I'm not sure how many of them I'm going to build. But as you can see, our tanks were pretty crappy, and they're slightly improved, so we'll see how effective they are against the Russians. All these other ones I have not modified yet either. I should probably build some mountain troops, since there's been a lot of mountainous terrain in places. But we'll see what the map looks like when I get to there. My logistics screen is looking pretty good right now. I've got a surplus of everything, small as it may be. Plenty of infantry equipment, so I can actually switch some of these factories over to other equipment that might be a little more needed. Changes my resource demands. Zooming out. I've added the Nationalist Chinese and the Manchukuo to my faction. So they are not only my puppets, but also my faction members, which should make it very hard for them to refuse war. I have 2 groups in my Russian Defense Force. The first group, which is the large one, is all my reserve troops, which I have trained up. Some of them were green units, now they're all the max level of training you can get, which is level 3. The second group, which I just formed and put on the Mongolian border, is a group of cavalry, which are also all maxed out on the training level. As you can see, there's not much on the Mongolian border, so at this stage, any potential war should let me kind of cruise through Mongolia and hopefully knock them out relatively quickly. My main attacking force is called the Chinese Liberation Group, or Front, as they were the main combatants in these wars, which is why you can see that a few of these units are level 4, mostly from actual combat, as you can only train up to level 3. So we've got some decently skilled units. As you can see, we've got some tank units here, which are changing over to the new formation. It should, I guess it doesn't show me what their composition is. As should the infantry, as I've added artillery to their standard, what do we call this? Division design. You can see I've got more Marines. I'll probably build one more group of Marines and then switch over to perhaps mountain troops, which, as you can see, I need to edit. So we can do that really quick. We're going to make them all mountain troops. Not really a point to put anything else in there. We'll make them as wide. We'll add some recon. We'll add some support and artillery, and we'll add an engineer to them as well. As you can see, it cost me 60 army experience to complete that. I have a total of 253 from my wars. So I'm still sitting pretty good there. Now that's saved. Once this batch of Marines is done, 1st of August, that's actually a very easy date to remember. I'll know I can end my Marines and switch on to something else. You see there's a lot of light tank requested for upgrades. Well, nothing for reinforcements. The goal here is to, if possible, take the French Indochina and the Dutch East Indies away from those nations without invoking the wrath of the American army, and for the obviously for the resources. And then to essentially liberate India from the British Raj. How possible is this with the national focus tree I went down? I have no idea, but I guess that's half the fun. We'll find out. I'll probably also be adding some more garrisons to my Japanese group in here. As you see, there's tons of Japanese troops out on these islands. I'm kind of ignoring them, letting them do their own thing for now. Though I did recently, with one of my national focuses, I think it was Fortress Japan, added some coastal forts out there to some of those islands. And I believe when I go down Army Air Innovation, I get to add some air bases to some more of those Pacific islands. So this is update number 1 for the game. I'll come back later at a different time with another update with progress from the next year or two, or however long interesting things happen. So I hope you enjoyed watching. Hope you subscribe to my channel so you get notifications on future updates, and I'll see you.